Well, Fox News is America's election headquarters, and we're counting down to the Republican debate tonight on the Fox Business Network. Donald Trump, yet again, on center stage while he dominates the national polls. But as we saw with the Republican response to the State of the Union and now in an editorial in the New York Times, some Republicans are becoming more explicit in speaking out against Trump's candidacy. In his column titled, "Why I Will Never Vote for Donald Trump," Pete Wenner, former Reagan and Bush advisor, writes this, quote, "For Republicans, there's an additional reason not to vote for Mr. Trump. His nomination would pose a profound threat to the Republican Party and conservatism in ways that Hillary Clinton never could. For while Mrs. Clinton could inflict a defeat on the Republican Party, she could not redefine it. But Mr. Trump, if he were the Republican nominee, would." Let's talk about that. Angela McClellan joins us, Fox News political analyst, and Tony Saig, Republican campaign strategist and Fox News contributor. So we're going to read a little bit more of this editorial in just a moment, guys, because it is a lot of things. It is provocative. It is emotional. It does make one side of the argument. But, Tony, as I'm reading it and seeing the list of reasons why this gentleman will not vote for Mr. Trump, I'm also seeing the list of reasons why people love Mr. Trump. What do you think about that?
Well, you're exactly right on that point. You know, he uses Trump's outsider status and the fact that he's building this non-traditional populist coalition as pejoratives, when that, in fact, is the virtue of the Trump candidacy. What the real vice is, the thing people are rejecting, is the elitism reflected in this actual article. And look, I think the author makes some really legitimate critiques of Donald Trump. Fair to criticize his preparedness to handle foreign policy. Certainly fair to criticize and question his conservative bona fides, as Ted Cruz has started to do very effectively. But the conclusion is the problem, which is somehow, if Donald Trump becomes our nominee, and at this point we have to conclude he's as likely, if not more likely, than anybody else, that people should stay home. I think that's the same kind of cacophony of idiocy we hear every time someone doesn't get their guy as the nominee, and it hurts our party ultimately in the general election.
To Tony's point, Angela, with Republicans like this, who needs Democrats to take down Donald Trump, right? I mean, it almost sounds like the same argument that the other side is making.
Well, Jenna, there are three factors that are driving people and motivating people in this election, and that is disgust, fear, and anger. People are disgusted with this dysfunctional Congress behind me. People have fear listening to our president the other night and what's going on in the world today, but anger. And those are the people that Donald Trump is bringing forward. And look, I understand it. I mean, people are tired of being sick and tired. Having said that, though, if you support Donald Trump, you will know them by their fruits. What has he shown you? What will he do to create a better America? I think the article is a little overreach. I think the jury's still out on Donald Trump, but if I was voting in a primary, I would not support Donald Trump. Kasich would be a great guy. He balanced the budget. Kasich would be wonderful. He's shown us what he is as a governor. Rubio would be great. He's a great senator. Those are the things that I think people need to look at, and I think they will.
What do you think about the conclusion that this particular writer comes to, Angela, as Tony just pointed out, though, that if Donald Trump is the nominee, that he won't get behind him? Would you do the same thing? Would you not get behind Donald Trump if he does go through the primary and he's still the guy?
Listen, Jenna, people fought and died for me to have the right to vote. And if I have to hold my nose and vote for Donald Trump, that's better than Hillary Clinton. Any Republican that's running is better than Hillary Clinton. So I think this guy in the article does himself a disservice.
Let me read a little bit more. Let me read a little bit more of the article so our viewers can really get a sense of where it goes. Here's just another part of it. He writes, Mr. Trump is precisely the kind of man our system of government was designed to avoid. The type of leader our founders feared, a demagogic figure who does not view himself as part of our constitutional system, but rather as an alternative to it. Tony, really? I mean, really? Donald Trump is that?
That's a better description of Barack Obama to me than it is Donald Trump, which is why I really am concerned about this trend lately. And look, I'm a big fan of Nikki Haley. I think she's done a great job as governor. But this idea that we would take the Republican response to the State of the Union to criticize our own party,
I think
is
going there, Tony? Why do you think it is? Because this is what's emerging this week that we're really seeing, aren't we? We're seeing the Nikki Haley statement. You're seeing this in the column in the New York Times. This is coming out. What's going on with the Republicans right now that this is happening.
In fairness, I will say very recently, Reince Priebus, the chairman of the RNC, actually made some very favorable comments about Donald Trump. He credited him with bringing a lot of positive attention to these debates. He called him a varsity player, and he indicates what I think Donald Trump wanted to see, which is that the Trump candidacy is being treated objectively and fairly by the RNC. But I do think as we get closer to Iowa, as we get closer to New Hampshire and the Super Tuesday states in the Southeast that are going to vote, and you still see Trump holding his lead nationally and in some of these important primary states, there's this kind of last-ditch effort, which I think is very dangerous.
Let me just ask you quickly, Angela, because we're going to have to go in just a second. I mean, is this the Republicans yet again hurting themselves more than their opponents hurting them?
We are hurting ourselves, and I support the governor and what she said after the State of the Union address. We need to get in line and actually pick someone and support someone. When the Democrats are better than we are dealing with our outreach and our grassroots, it's sad. And I think that Trump, in making the comments about Mexicans and other things that he said, he's actually hurting the party in that way. We're supposed to be the big tent party, inclusion for all.
Where the Democrats are better, frankly, is they get together behind their candidate and turn out to vote in the general election, which is why they have a numerical advantage over us, is they don't play these types of games. And I hope our party won't either, no matter who the nominee is.
Interesting. We'll watch whose column is next, whose comments are next, and we'll certainly watch the debate tonight. Angela, Tony, great conversation. Thank you so much.